I freaking lost my mood ring earlier, and I don't know how I feel about it. What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about ESO in August. All of the cool little things that you guys are able to farm in August, what makes it different from other months, how the economy is going to be affected, how all of the new items are going to be affected, new houses. Obviously there's going to be a new monster pack that you're going to be able to farm, so we're going to talk a little bit about that also. And honestly, it should be a really good month before we get into kind of the Q3 and Q4 of the year, so I'm excited, and let's jump into it. So the very first thing I wanted to point out is, depending on when you're watching this, likely ESO Plus is still free, which means that you are able to have ESO Plus for free. And there's a lot of really good ways that you can utilize this. We talked about how to utilize this for the Zenthar event specifically, really just starting to farm those things like dragons, harrow storms. You know, those are really good ways that you can kind of min-max and farm a whole lot of boxes very quickly, get some good rewards. But I also wanted to kind of point out some other things. Make sure that you fill up your craft bag. I know there's a lot of people out there who utilize guild banks and all these other things. They utilize multiple characters. Well, now's your chance to put all these items into your craft bag. That's definitely a great utilization. The other thing that I want to have a conversation about too is it might not be a bad idea. Don't kill me. Might not be a bad idea to try to grind out some mythicals because you're going to essentially be able to get them for free. So I thought that might be a really good utilization for you guys, because mythicals have really kind of replaced monster sets, in my opinion, as far as the end game, really PvP and PvE meta. Now, there's obviously exceptions and whatnot, but as when it comes down to it, it really definitely seems like mythicals are used a lot more. Ones that I would definitely suggest seeing if you guys are able to pick up would be the Pale Order Ring, especially if you're trying to farm solo arenas. Pale Order Ring just makes that so much simpler, in my opinion. I also think that it's not a bad idea getting things like the Harpooner's Kilt. It's definitely one of the best PvE items in the game. I'm also a huge fan of specific PvP ones. You don't necessarily have to farm these, and some might be a little more tricky too, such as the Gaze of Sithis. That one might be a little bit more hands-on because you're going to have to start farming a dungeon in addition to basically farming the Silent Vendor guy, who's a little bit annoying to have to farm. So those are the ones that I would suggest. There's people who might suggest also like the Oaken Soul Ring. I think the Oaken Soul Ring is fine. Your new mythicals from Necrom, unfortunately, are going to be tied to you owning Necrom and not having ESO Plus, so kind of skipping those for now. But know that the actual necklace that they just added is actually pretty good. But let me know in the comments below, what mythicals would you farm in this kind of trial period for ESO Plus? Also, when you have ESO Plus for free, you've got two, good dungeons you could farm. Obviously, some people might say there's a little more, but to me, Black Drake Villa is the number one you can farm, in addition to Falkreath Hold. That's got your Kinraz and your Pillar of Nirn, probably the two best DPS sets. I feel like they're always competing against each other for what is the most used currently in the meta. So, to me, those are the dungeons that I would focus on if I was utilizing ESO Plus. And plus, with curated drops, it can become pretty painless when it comes to actually getting all the drops that you need for these, especially because you can use, body pieces for a lot of these sets. And usually, too, you can find people selling specific weapons. Like, if you would need the daggers, you can find people selling those in Craglorn. What that means is essentially you guys do the dungeon, you pay them 50k gold, they give you their dagger at the end, or their staff, or their whatever. So they actually have that as a possible curated drop that they get essentially every time, and then they give that to you at the end. And then when it comes to trials, head down to Craglorn and look for people farming Cloud Rest. Not only does Cloud Rest have some of the best sets that you can use for a PvE character, but also it's just relatively easy to farm in that, it really kind of benefits those who really are patient with mechanics. It doesn't require crazy DPS. It really just requires general teamwork. And honestly, in my opinion, anyone in this whole world can learn teamwork, especially on ESO. So go to Craglorn and try to find people farming Cloud Rest. And this is just general advice for whenever, and this will be in the mid-game player guide as well. This is just more so specific to right now. If you have ESO Plus and you potentially are losing it in the next couple days, try to utilize your opportunity while you have it to get some of those sets and really to get that teamwork experience. And this segue takes us into the Crown Store Showcase. Now, the reason why I like to go over the Crown Store Showcase is not only does it tell us what monster set you guys are going to be able to farm and get the nice little style page from it, but it also gives us an idea of how the market's going to be. Are people going to be selling crowns, at a high rate? Let me just point out that you can still sell crowns for gold. You can still buy crowns with gold. However, it seems as though the current system in place to gift crown crates is only a gifting system. That's the whole ticket process that we've kind of talked about previously. The difference between that and the fact that you can still gift every single item in the Crown Store, except the items you could never gift, like sky shards and whatnot. Just not the crown crates. So they put this system in so that you can gift crown crates through their ticket process. Problem has become is that they said, basically, we don't want to overwhelm our system and we don't want to utilize this as a kind of exchange, and that caused a whole bunch of confusion and whatnot, but you can still do it. And we're going to talk about that briefly based on some of the stuff on here. And starting us off, we actually have our nice little monster set pages. Now, for those of you who do not know, basically, the heads and tails of this is for the time that it will be on here, which is going to be August 3rd through the 10th, you guys are going to be able to get the kind of monster set style. That's the head and the shoulder through two different ways. One, you can just get it through traditionally farming Moonhunter Keep on Veteran. And the other way is you can buy, really, the Undaunted keys. You can either buy it for 50 for guaranteed, or you can even tells you here, you can buy it for the mystery coffer for 1 key and have a chance. Always buy the mystery coffer, by the way. The odds are just significantly better and the rewards are better, but you increase your odds by having the Alpha Predator title, which is the hard mode for those who have ever done Moonhunter Keep on Veteran hard mode. Now, there is always confusion when I bring this up. You do not have to continually farm it on Veteran hard mode. You can, but you do not have to. Your odds are already increased based on having that achievement. This is a set that does sell significantly well. I would say that it's probably going to be in the range of 750,000 to 1.5 mil for the helmet on console. And PC, just everything is over $1 million gold. So probably like 2 to 3 million gold, just because everything on PC is worth 2 to 3 million gold, regardless of what it is. And then the shoulder will probably be around. The shoulder actually looks really nice. It may be around 300k, but it also could depend too, because a lot of people might be farming it. So you always have to kind of gauge those things kind of as they happen. And then actually from August 31st to September 21st, which feels like a little bit of a cop-out because technically that's like 1 day in August, but you guys are going to be able to farm Coral Eerie in the exact same way. Now, I am a little perplexed in my mind on if I think this will be a monster set that sells well. Basically, you've got like a little masquerade looking mask that lets you look kind of like an eagle. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be worth a significant amount of money, but what I would say though is that the hard mode achievement is harder to get for Coral Eerie versus something like Moonhunter Keep, so keep that in mind, but they will also be out a little longer too. So when you're gauging these things, you have to kind of think about a lot of variables. How many people are going to want to farm Coral Eerie? It's a longer dungeon. So is Moonhunter Keep, though, to be fair. So that's kind of all the things that are going to kind of go into this intrinsic value for this monster set. So overall, I think it will definitely be profitable, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be one that's worth like 10 million gold on console. Because there are monster set helms that are worth 10 million plus gold on console. I don't think this is going to be one, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit more valuable than the Moonhunter Keep one, at least when it's first released. Now, by the end of September, it might have lost a lot of its value. That will really depend on how many people are farming it. I just wanted to also make a quick note here, because a lot of people have been asking for the Antiquity skill line to be purchased with crowns. I would just hesitate to say that I don't necessarily think it's worth buying. And hear me out. You can get a lead on character Little Timmy, and then you can log into Big Timmy, and you can farm that lead. The only benefit that you can get from any of the Antiquity skill line is essentially seeing chests in the overworld and having them kind of light up, So essentially like if you have the ability to see like ores and stuff light up. So I would discourage you guys from buying this. I know on its surface it seems, super helpful. For some reason, a lot of people were asking for it. I'm not saying they're wrong for asking for it. I just think that a lot of people might not know that you can get a lead on one character and do it on a different one. So just keep that in mind. And the houses, the fair winds. So a lot of people have been asking for this house for a while, which is almost why I feel like I have to talk about it now, just because so many people want it. I think that when this house comes out, crowns are going to skyrocket in price. Because what's kind of interesting right now is that I have been trying to gauge the crown store marketplace to see are they going up or down. But really it just seems like they're kind of stagnating because the people who want to sell them to get gold are struggling to do so because people aren't able to get crowns. They're kind of relying on other things in the crown store, which most endgame players don't really need a whole lot of stuff from the crown store. Because you can't gift skill lines, so you can't just cheese it and be like, just gift my other character the Mage's Guild line. I don't want to get all those freaking books. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It's really just like, do you want these XP scrolls and these furnishing items? And it's like, not really. I can already craft 50 bajillion furnishing items. But anywho, new houses are always able to change that. So when this house comes out, and that will be August 9th, you best believe that there's going to be a significant uptick in crown sales. And if you're looking to profit off of those crown sales, that's the time to do it. And as always, I've got my little list that I go through with you guys. This is also now officially on my Discord. So a lot of people have asked, where is this information? And you lovely juvelies help me out significantly making it look nice in the Discord. And I always like to use my Discord as kind of a quick one-stop shop place for these pieces of information. So the reason why I point out all these things is basically there's a lot of shit that sells in ESO, a lot, and this is just a great way to kind of highlight some specific things for a specific month. So August is not necessarily a month of, it's got all these PvP or PvE events. Now, the Undaunted Celebration event is going to be coming up here soon, but that's not until September, so we don't need a whole lot of consumables. But what I would say is that even ZeniMax has come out and said, like, there is a shit ton of new players. It's causing queue times in ESO for the first time in what feels like forever. So I would say that a lot of the items geared towards newer players are going to be selling like hotcakes. And that is definitely things like XP pots, new players, XP pots, 100%. But also, they start needing some sets, too. So usually a lot of Overland and DLC sets can usually sell for a lot of gold, especially if you look at sets that are being suggested by players. You can usually make at least a decent chunk of money. I always give the example of Dark Convergence because, in my mind, Dark Convergence is not even really that good of a set. It has a lot of, like, flashy utility, but as far as like how niche it is versus how much it sells, there's definitely an imbalance. And that's because I think a lot of people experiment with it because they want to look like, oh, look, I'm doing the TikTok clips, I'm cool. But in reality, there's just so many better ways that you could make those clips, whatever. It's one of those sets that gets suggested, and I think it really shouldn't. But when you start looking at sets that newer players might want, that is one of them. There's a lot of other ones such as Briarheart, Pariah, Crafty's a really highly suggested set. Frostbite, Gourmand, even like Red Mountain, Necropotence, Stiggins, these Trainee. These are all sets that are being recommended by players, content creators online, whatever. And then for your PvP sets, Vicious Death is definitely suggested a lot. Rallying Cry is suggested a lot. Elfbane is suggested a lot. Curse Eater, Deadly Strike, definitely Deadly Strike. So when you start thinking about what can sell, when it comes to sets, usually you want to think about sets that are being recommended. Now, craftable sets become super interesting. In my opinion, the number one new set that players will want is Heartland in the training trait, because then you can get double the training XP. So I think that Heartland is probably the best craftable set that you could sell to new players, but in reality, all of these here are good and they might want those. But as a crafter, you could probably make a killing with all these new players coming in, either switching from console because it's apparently it's ESO's free on the Epic Game Store, or just in general people making the switch over, or new players getting the Game Pass because Xbox is doing their Game Pass changes, or more just people coming to MMOs and whatnot. So keep all of this in mind. And then don't forget that your treasure maps probably have more value than you give them credit for. Motifs, not necessarily anything super specific going on with motifs this month, except that there's those new style pages from Coral Eerie, and then the returning one from Moonhunter Keep. Companion gear is going to be dropping in those Zenthar boxes. Do not sleep on your companion gear. Writ books are unfortunately not as valuable, and writ voucher items are not as valuable as I had hoped. Furniture might be something that sees an uptick. And when I usually say furniture too, I always like to point out that there's not just the furniture pieces, the stuff that makes furniture. Mundane runes, heartwood, all that stuff is really good. And if you're a newer player, one of the easiest gold methods, especially if you go to PC, is raw materials. A lot of endgame players, there's more endgame players generally on PC than newer players. It's very lopsided versus console. Console looks much more like a pyramid with endgame players, mid-game players, and new players. On PC, that's almost flipped, where you have the highest population is endgame players. Now, there's going to be people that are going to think to themselves, oh, well, they're not score pushing. It's not the traditional endgame players. Yada, yada, yada. That's not what I mean. People who are buying items as if they were endgame players. They're buying, consumables. They're buying materials. They're entering, high tier, 200 million gold housing contests. Like it or not, that's an endgame player in this example. And they're going to be buying a lot of those things. So you can profit off of that if you are switching over. But dear friends, that is the guide for August. What did you guys think? Obviously, we're very close to update 39. So that may have some kind of lingering effects on the economy. So we'll touch upon that as we kind of go throughout the month. Also, we are still wrapping up our mid-game player guide, which is actually kind of my motivation for making this video first. Is as I was talking about farming these trials and farming these dungeons, I was like, everyone's got ESO Plus for free right now. Maybe I should make this video first, and then we could talk about that one next, because I really want you guys to kind of be able to utilize this time and mid-max your time, because I think that's the most important thing sometimes in an MMO is really utilizing like the events. Sometimes people, I think, forget how good of a buff certain things are, like 10% discounts, 50% XP buffs, and so on and so forth. So really utilizing whatever event or whatever thing is going on is always the best thing to do, in my opinion. So thank you guys so much again for watching. We are still doing our 3 giveaway drawings. I will note, we do 1 random comment, 1 random subscriber, and then a random word is flashed upon the screen. A random word was flashed upon the screen on a video within this last week, not this one, spoiler. You can go back and comment on it because nobody has caught it. If you're the first one to comment the word, you guys will get a prize in addition to if you're the random comment, a random subscriber. So hopefully one of you guys finds it. I was debating on how long I wanted to leave it flashed on the screen, and I now recognize that I probably should have had it for a little bit longer. So thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
So in the comments below, if you guys don't mind helping me out, I really want some more suggestions for mid-game players who are farming the end, trying to get into the end game farming routines, what they should be doing. I've got the dungeons, the trials, how to farm experience, how to farm gold. One of the things that I struggled with, I think the most, is how to farm, get into end game PvP. I talked a little bit about battlegrounds and practicing in Cyrodiil and whatnot, but I feel like there's just some facets that I want to talk about more getting into. I even talked about housing when I was scripting it, like how to get into kind of social guilds and whatnot, how to get more inundated with the ESO community, Facebook band, Discord, Reddit, etc. So if you guys have specific suggestions for things that you think should be recommended to farm, let me know. The biggest one I think that I want to kind of talk about is the PvP. I feel like that's the one I struggle with the most because I feel like you're either a noob, a zergling, or you know what you're doing. And it's really bridging that gap that I'm trying to think, what's the best way to bridge that gap besides going to Greyhost and getting dicked down, or going to Battlegrounds and being at the will and the mercy of whoever your teammates are, whether they're just people who want to farm their dailies for experience and transmutes, or whether they're people who are sweating and who are going to kill everybody with the most broken builds ever. That's the part that I struggle with. And then just if you have general suggestions for things that you guys just recommend that should be farmed once you get into the mid game, that way you can be ready for the end game, because then after the mid game player guide, I'm going to get working on the end game player guide. And if you guys give me a really good suggestion, I will comment below what video the word is on, so that way to give you guys a little bit of a heads up in case you guys want to try to go back and be that little giveaway winner. So this is a very long post outro, so thank you, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.